So in this session, I'll be starting off with the recap of C programming. So which is your first module. So in this, we'll start off with the discussion as to what is meant by problem solving, then what is meant by algorithms, flowcharts, pseudocode. Then we'll start off with the overview of C. So it will actually start from overview of C, wherein you will be discussing all these things, and then you will be moving further. So at start, I'll just start off with the introduction and see uh, related some concepts related to the programming. So here we know that C was developed by Dennis Ritchie, and C is basically a middle level language. So when we move further, there also again we'll discuss regarding this one. So in C programming, what you can look out for is you can implement the logic. Suppose you want to add two numbers. So what is the logic you can look forward in order to add two numbers using C programming? So you have to use the instructions, you have to follow the syntax, you have to follow the semantics. So all these things in order to implement the addition. I'm just taking an example over here. In order to implement the addition, so in order to do that, how do I go ahead? And remember that C programming is not object oriented. It is structured programming language. It's a structured programming language. It is a middle level language. You don't have concepts which are present in object oriented programming such as C++. So in that you come across many things such as say inheritance, polymorphism. Here you don't have those concepts in C programming. So one important feature of C programming is it is utilized in developing of say driver patches. So in when you're developing drivers, say for USB, you are developing a driver. So for those kind of tasks, right, you can go for, or you go for C programming. Even in some cases, you have to look out for even Verilog coding. So that again you can convert into C program and then look out how it goes ahead. If you just look at these aspects, right, C language is one of the important and primary languages of a coder. So before going into a development phase, right, before being a developer, you should first thing what they try to do is they try to cover up the concepts, or they try to learn the concepts relevant to C language, and then they move ahead with the rest. So this is what we can talk about C. So in general, when I ask you to write about C, you can look out for all these aspects. Now, what is meant by problem solving in this case? So here we can see that. So how we can solve a problem, any given problem, how we can solve it? What are the different ways which we can look out? So whenever we have a problem, right, we look for identifying a solution for that. Say I have a problem of looking forward that I want to add two numbers and I want to see what is the result. So in what way I can add the numbers? So if I go ahead with binary, what is the logic I have to follow? If I go ahead with hexadecimal, what is the logic I have to follow? If I go ahead with decimal numbers, what is the logic I have to follow? So I should be knowing these things. So, but in simple terms, right? If it is a layman, then they have to think from different point of view, so that layman can understand what is the solution to the problem at hand. So here, the different methods which are utilized for solving problems are one is utilizing the algorithms, then one is looking for the flowcharts, and the other one is looking for the pseudocode. So what is algorithm? What is flowchart? What is pseudocode? So if you look at the algorithm, right, what you do is you write it in a English language. That is the solution. What you're providing to the problem, you write it in English like language, And what you're doing is you are breaking the entire problem into smaller chunks and specifying what has to be done. So here, what he has done is, if you look at this one, he's trying to, the problem is we have to try to identify whether a given number is even or not. So logically, we know that when we divide a number by 2, if the remainder is 0, we classify it as a even number. If it is remainder is not 0, we classify it as a odd number. So that is what we can look out for. So this is the logical aspect. So algorithmically, how I represent it, that is in English like language, what I represented. So here we specify it in terms of steps. So here you can, you start off with the initial step. So what is you have to look out for is you have to accept a number from the input device or input this thing from the user. So you have to accept a number. Then what you do is you divide that number by 2 and check if the remainder, check what is the remainder. If remainder is 0, then you have to inform that the number is even number, or else you have to inform that the number is a odd number. So that is how you are writing in algorithm. You are writing it in English like language, and each of the say steps of the problem, that is a solution to the problem, you are specifying in this form. So that is what you are looking out for. So whenever a layman reads at this one, right, it becomes easy for him to identify, okay, this is what the algorithm is looking for. But I cannot run this. So C programming doesn't permit this. This is just algorithmic representation. Now the same thing we can represent in flowchart, which is the pictorial representation. So here in algorithm, what is the problem? So if algorithm keeps on growing, say it has 100 or 200 steps. So what happens is identifying the flow. Identifying the flow becomes a problem. So if there are 100 or 200 steps, what happens is identifying the flow becomes a problem. So therefore, what is the alternative? Pictorially, it gives us more information. So picture is equivalent to say thousands of words what you speak around. So here what we do is we can utilize that concept. So even flowchart is nothing but it is trying to give you the solution for the problem what you have, what you are looking for, but it is representing it in the diagram, say pictorial form. It is representing in pictorial form. So that is what you can look out for. That is flowchart. So here you can just observe that it is in flowchart form. That is, it is pictorial representation. So here you have start, stop, you read a number. That is in algorithm what you had specified, you had written accept number as input. So here you are specifying it, read the number. So it is like you are taking the input from the say input device through the user. Then what you're doing, here you had specified it, divide the number by 2 and check the remainder. If remainder is this, then perform this operation and go to the last step. That is what you had specified. So here you try to see what is the remainder value. So you are performing the division by 2. So you are checking whether the remainder is greater than 0. So if it is greater than 0, what happens? Say if it is greater than 0, the number is odd. You tell that it is odd and you stop, or else you specify that the number is even and you stop it. So this gives you a much better identification of the flow. So here in these 6 steps I can identify, but if the steps keep on increasing, what happens is identifying, here you are specifying divide the number by 2. If remainder is 0, then go to step 4, or else go to step 5. So this is you have to keep track of all these things. That is a flow. It becomes really difficult, but in diagrammatic representation, right, pictorial representation, this becomes quite easy for us. So that is one of the advantages of flowchart. So when we are dealing with flowchart, we make use of different symbols for representing different tasks. So here we have the oval symbol, which represents the start or the stop process. Then this one, say this symbol, right? It helps us to identify that it is a read operation, or it is taking the data from the input, or it is providing the data to the output. Then this one tells that there is some process being taken care. That is, there is some calculation happening or some process is being running around in this part. So this one is a decision making box. This rhombus is a decision making box. So in this way, again, you have different representations. So here you can see that symbol is start and end. It represents the start and end process. Then this one represents the input and the output operation. You are taking the input or providing the output. So that is what it is specifying. This is a process decision. Arrows indicate the flow of the control. Then a connector, because what happens is this flowchart can go beyond more than one page. If the algorithm keeps on increasing, if the problem looks for a solution and that solution is very huge, so in that case this might go beyond one or two pages. So what happens is there will be a discontinuity. How do I specify that it is in tandem with the previous? So I make use of the connectors. Say I place a connector over here and then I specify that connector at the other page and then I continue. So that is what we can look out for, and these are the other symbols which are used for different purposes. So this is like a database. So that is what it is specifying. So next one is the pseudo code. So pseudo itself is nothing but false. It is a false code. So it is much more close to the coding, this thing what you will be doing, to the language what you are looking out for. But I cannot execute this also. This cannot be executed. So it is much more better representation of the algorithm what I can specify. So in algorithms, you're specifying step one, start, then you're performing all the operations. But here what you're doing is you're making use of labels. That is one change. You're making use of labels, and each label gives you some information. Each label gives you some information over there. So you're trying to utilize that label in order to identify what is the operation you are performing. So that is what you're looking out for. So in this one, what you have, so the same, the same identification of a number, whether it is a even or a odd number. So what you're doing, you're stating it, say there it was start and stop. You're just specifying it as begin and end as the label. Then there what you had done, you had read a number. So here it is specified accept number as input. Now it is still more clear in this part. That is, you define a number and then you accept the number, then you read the number from the input device. So that is what you are looking out for, and you are displaying a message, say, to the user telling that please enter a number. So that whenever user enters the number using the input device, that number will be read into, say, num. And next what you're doing is you are implementing the if and else condition. If you find the remainder of the number and if it is zero, what you're doing, you're specifying that the number is even, or else you're specifying that the number is odd. So that is what you are looking out for. So this gives you a much better representation as compared to the algorithm point of view. So here you are making use of labels, and that label is giving you some information telling that, say for example, display. So it tells that you are displaying something to the user, or you are displaying something onto the output device. So here read, you are reading something from the input device. So that is what pseudocode implies. So it is like a false code. This code also I cannot run it in the compiler. I cannot run it. So these are just a few things related to the algorithm, flowchart, and pseudocode. So each of them has some advantage and disadvantage. You can just go through these and try to see what are these for. Then you can have some comparison also. Then you have the next part, that is examples of problem solving. So he has taken multiple examples. So if you just look out all three, this thing he has looked out for. So the previous one itself, if you just look out for this one, right, that is identifying whether the number is even or odd. So using algorithm, this is what I can look out for. This is the algorithmic representation. Then this is the flowchart representation of the entire implementation. And the last one, this is the pseudocode representation of the algorithm. So here multiple examples he has given, wherein he has say for example this one, an integer num is given as input, find out whether it is a prime or not. So if you know how to identify the prime number, you can look out. First you write the algorithm. From algorithm you can convert that into pseudocode. Once you know these things, right, then you will be able to give the flowchart. So here in flowchart, you can just identify what all things are present in order to identify whether the number is prime or not. So here, all these things are basically trying to give us what are the steps involved in identifying the solution for a given problem. What are the steps involved in identifying a solution to the given problem? So you have a very big problem that you are dividing into smaller parts. Like you get to know that you have to take these two integers, num and I. So these are two integers which are required. Then you have to perform this logical operation in order to identify whether the number is prime or not. So this is what you are looking out for. So you'll be able to identify what is the logical aspect, what are the different elements which are required, say variables or constants, whatever are required. Then utilizing that, how I go ahead with the implementation in the actual programming world. So that is what we are looking out for. So here he has given many say problems, and relevant algorithm, pseudocode and flowchart is also provided. So you can utilize these and then go ahead. Okay, so these I'll not be discussing presently. So next we come across with the overview of C programming. So this is like a recap of whatever you have studied in the previous case. So here we come across. C programming was developed by Dennis Ritchie at Bell Labs in the year 1972. Now, here one thing to look out for is these features of C programming. So C programming is a middle level language. C programming is a middle level language. That is, it falls between the low level language and the high level language. So what is actually a low level language? So low level language basically utilizes zeros and ones. That is, if you want to communicate with the machine, right, machine will understand only zeros and ones, that is binary. So if you have to communicate with machines, you have to convert whatever high level programming is there into zeros and ones. Say for example, if I have, for example, if I have say 0 1 0 1 0 1, say this binary representation is there. Now for me it will not make any sense. For me it will not make any sense, but when this goes to the machine, right, when this goes to the machine, what happens is the machine looks out at this one from a different point of view. So for machine, this might be this if you're writing a program, right, so this one will be acting as up say if it is the first instruction of the program, it will be acting as a something called as opcode, operation code. It will be acting as a opcode which we call as operation code. So this opcode say for this might be an opcode for add. It might be a opcode for add. So you are dealing with microcontroller right now. So in microcontroller you come across all these things. You specify add, say R1. So what is this performing? This is taking the accumulator contents, accumulator plus R1. This result is being stored in the accumulator. So this is what is performed. But in machine, what happens is it cannot directly read add. So this is actually converted into binary. So this add might be 0 1 0 1 0 1. So the machine gets to know that this is a opcode. Since this is the first part of this instruction, this is a opcode. What does this opcode imply? This opcode tells the machine that you have to add the numbers. You have to add the numbers. So what does this do as per your microcontroller this thing, right? What does this do is it identifies what are the numbers it has to add. So in this instruction, it is implicit that accumulator is one parameter and this one will be the other parameter. So after these two, right, these two information will be there. So I should know the address of this one and the address of this. So that address is utilized, address of A and address of the R1. So they are taken and the values at that location, that is A and R1, are fetched and then added and then stored back in the address of the accumulator. So in these all in these all operations, right, this entire thing will be converted. This instruction, what is there, this will be converted into zeros and ones. It will be converted into zeros and ones. So that is what is happening in this case. So this will be easily understood by the machines. But when this is given to humans, it becomes really difficult to identify. It will be really difficult to identify by the humans. Okay. Next one, sorry, I missed out the high level. It's a high level language. That is what is meant by high level language. Now, high level language, when you consider, say, you all have come across Python, right? You all have come across the Python programming. So in this, how you are writing the things, or even in, if you look out for the other this thing also, how you write it, you write it print something, then you define some functions. So you are writing it in a say almost like a literature kind of thing. That is, say you're writing it in entirely English like language. The coding is entirely English like. So you're making use of the terms and you're specifying this. So here you can see that you're making use of English like language, which is easily interpreted by humans. It is easily readable or interpreted by the humans. So at one end you have uh, this kind of programming. At the other end you have the opcodes, say zeros and ones, whatever is there. So this is understood by the machine, this is easily understood by the humans. But what happens is this entire thing has to move or converted into zeros and ones at the end. So C programming falls in between these two. C programming falls in between these two. So therefore, it is called as middle level language. So it makes use of some of these statements like printf, scanf. At the same time, it looks out for operating along with the machine level, operating with the machine level, so that it can easily get the uh, overall results. So whenever you are writing C programming, right, there are some online tools which are available. It will give you the information on how actually the conversion is happening. So if I get the link, I'll share it. Suppose you are writing like int a. So int a is nothing but you are declaring a variable over there. So how do I declare a variable in the other stuff? I have to allocate some memory. So I have to allocate some memory. Memory is allocated with the content of A. So this is how it gets converted into opcodes. In the backend, it gets converted to opcodes. This is say your middle level or high level language. So this, whatever statement you are writing here, right, it will be converted into these forms. So now you're dealing with microcontrollers, right? In that will be 8051. So in that we'll be covering these opcodes and how you utilize to write how you utilize these one to write the programs. So in simple, this thing, what you're specifying like add A and B. If you're just specifying like this, so this one has to be converted or in in high level language, what you're doing, you're writing it as A plus B. But in opcode, what happens is it is like add A and B. But before this, I should store A and store B, or I should have that value. So some memory is allocated for A, some memory is allocated for B, and then they are utilized. So it will be like M1 comma M2. So just A plus B will be converted into 3 lines of codes in your opcodes. So this is just, I'm taking an example. Actual conversion, you can just look into that coding aspect and then see how it operates. So your C programming, right, is in between. It is a middle level language. it makes use of features, some of the features of the low level and some of the features of the high level. So it is operating with both in hand. So it is like an interface between both. So next one is it is structured programming, or sometimes we also call it as modular programming. So what is meant by this? We develop the solution for a given problem in terms of some small modules. Say we make use of if and else statement, we make use of for statement. So we are introducing the control statements over there. So when we make use of such kind of things, we term this programming as structured programming. And now C programming is machine independent. So what is meant by machine independent? So if you are running a C program on one machine, uh, then I can take that program and on a similar kind of other this thing, I can run it on the other system. Say on one computer, say HP computer, it is running. If you take it on a Dell computer, there also it will run in the same way. So therefore, we term it as machine independent. It is extensible in the sense what happens is now you have built-in functions like for example printf, scanf, then you have get ch, put ch. So these are all built-in functions. Along with this, you can have your own functions, that is user defined functions. So because of this, what happens and you can create your own header files in those cases. So when you're creating your header files, you can utilize those header files in your coming forth programs also. So in this way, what happens is you are indirectly reducing the coding effort which is required. So that is one thing. And since you have you are able to define a function and store it in some libraries or add it over there. So what you can do is you can utilize those user defined functions and you are extending your program itself. So you are not just using the built-in functions, but you are also you can utilize the user defined functions. You can also utilize these things. Okay. So here, apart from this, it supports different types of data types, different data types and operators. So data types, if you just name them: integer, float, character, string, arrays, pointers, structures. So unions. So these are of different data types: float, double. So these are the different data types which C programming supports. And operators, you can just recollect logical operators, then you have mathematical operators or arithmetic operators. So there are a number of operators which are available, which you can utilize in C programming. So these are just a few few key features. Along with that, if you know few more, you can add those also in the key features of C programming. So in next class, right, I'll be starting off with the sample C program, and then I'll be continuing with the rest part.